Everyone. Hello everyone, welcome to the Mercury Virtual. Hope you are doing good. Today I'm going to continue with your same module, that is a quality system in IT, and the same chapter, that is chapter number 4, that is quality management system. In the last class we have started this chapter, that is chapter number 4, and we have seen what are the various requirements of the quality management system, or what is the quality management system, what are the various options that is available in the quality management system. So let's start with the previous class session. So chapter number 4 we have started in the last class, that is a quality management system, and there is a summary of the requirement that is we have studied, that what is the main requirement for establishing a management system that is used for a particular component of the system. For example, if I want to make any system, so first of all I have to get the requirements of the summary, or the summary of the requirement, that is what is my requirements, or what are the user's requirement, and how it is fulfilled, developed, processed, and identified, their sequence and interaction defined. So whatever the sequence, whatever the oh, hello, are you able to hear me, Larry, right now? Hello. Are you able to hear me? Hello. Okay. So these are the summary of the requirement that is available, that is used for the summary, that is what are the various requirements in which we can make the objective, the processes are identified, their sequence and interaction determined. And once the relationship between the processes is known, the criteria and the method for the effective operation and control can be developed and documented. So whatever the control, whatever the method, whatever the criteria that is used for the effective operation, that can be developed and documented for the processes. And the processes are described in terms that enable their effective communication. So whatever their effective communication, that is process that is used for the effective communication, that is used for the doing things, that we use to complete the quality manual. So whatever the quality manual, that may be a record, that may be a data, that may anything that is related to the quality, that is available with this one. Now, how to establish a quality management system, that is 4.1. That requires the organization to establish a quality management system when they use the ISO 9001. So there is the ISO 9001 standard that is used by the organizations for the quality management system. And to establish means to set up on a permanent basis, install or create, and therefore establishing a management system. What I mean, that means to create the quality management system on a permanent basis, first of all install, then create and establish a management system that is designed, constructed, resourced, installed, and integrated into the organization, that is used for the management system. On the paper, that is not a management system. That means whatever the scenarios, whatever the situation that is used for the quality management system. Now, next question is, why is this necessary? That means why it is necessary to use the ISO 9001 standards. Because ISO 9001 contains a series of the requirements which, if met, will provide the management system. For example, if I'm talking from industry, from the organization point of view, so there must be a need for the ISO 9001 standard that provides a management system, that provides the capability of supplying product and the services that satisfy the organization customer. So whatever the customer of the organization, whatever the criteria that is using, that will met by using the ISO 9001 standard, that will satisfy the organization customers. And all organizations have a management system, that is all organization must have a management system that is used, that is a way of the working, that is not formalized, that is for partially formalized. So whatever the requirement that is used, that is implemented using the ISO 9001 standard. Now, how it is or how is this implemented? That is how we can implement the ISO 9001 standard. So the terms establish, document, implement, maintain, and improve are used in the standard. So these are the various terms that is used in the standard, as though this is the sequence of the activities which when in reality. That means these are the terms that is available, and these are the terms that is used for the quality management system when it is used for the implementation. In order to establish a system, it must have put in place, and putting a system in place require two separate actions. So these are the two actions that is used when we implement. So first of all, design the system that is used using the various requirements. So first of all, gather the requirement, then design the system, that is system requirements, design using the various processes, then construct the system. So first of all, design the system, then construct the system using the process that documents, install, commissions, and integrate the processes to deliver the required business output. So whatever the designing part, whatever the construction part that is available, that is implementing during the system requirements. That is designing the system using the processes. First, that is the first part. Then construct the system. That means actually implement the system. So the way in which these phases of the quality system management are related is illustrated in the management system that is available in the figure 4.1. Now, what is the figure 4.1? Now, let's see what are the various, what is the figure 4.1? This is the figure 4.1 that shows the system management process model. So there is a system management process model. So first of all, there is a business management. That is how we are using the business management. That is the business management. Then it contains a corporate policy and the objective. That is, what are the various corporate policies, what are the various objectives that is available. Then customer need and the expectations. So what are the various customer needs and the expectations that is available for the customer needs, that is the customer needs and the expectations. Then this also includes a governing requirement. So there is also requirement that is also available. So business management that includes the corporate policy and the objectives. Then there is a system design after the business management that includes efficiency improvement that is used for the system design. Then system construction that includes conformity and efficiency of the improvement. So whatever the efficiency, whatever the improvement that is available, that is used for the system construction. Then system operation. So these are the three phases by which the system or business management will handle. So first of all, there is a system management, then system construction, then system operation, and then system evaluation. So these are the 4-5 terms that is used for the design, construction, operation, and evaluation. And after the result, there are two parts. There is the system maintenance and the system improvement. And if there is any feedback from the customer, that is directly go to the system maintenance. That means how we maintain the system, that is system maintenance. And there is a certification body that is also used for the system evaluation. And if there is any changes, so that changes will be reflected back by the system improvement. And there is a effectiveness improvement that is also installed. That includes the business management. So this is the starting with the business management, going with the business management. In between there are multiple phases like system design, system construction, system operation. These are the various phases that is occurred or that is available for between the business management of one term to the business management of the another term. Now, the first part is process commissioning, that is concerned with getting all the new processes that is working following the installation. So whatever the installation phases that is available, so following all the new processes that is available for getting the new processes that is work following the installation. Then there's a process integration that is concerned with changing behavior so that do the right things the right way without having to be told. That means the process integration, there should be an integration among the processes that is used for the changing behavior, that the people do the right things without having to told. That means there is no push and play game that is you have to do. No. Everything is all right. Everything is okay. It's your responsibility to do your task. So the way people act and react to certain stimuli, that is situations, become predictable and produce the result that are required. So that becomes a predictable, that becomes available in the scenarios, and that produce the result that are required as a process integration. Then there is a system integration that is concerned with making the interconnection between the processes. That means system integration means combining various subsystems, that is system integration that is concerned with making the interconnection between the processes, ensuring that all the linkages are in place. That means whatever the linkage, whatever the linking part that is available, that is done in the place, and the output from a process feeds the interfacing processes. So whatever the process, whatever the criteria that is used for the inter-system integration. Now, first is we have to identify or we have to do the things that is used. So first step is establishing a quality management system. That includes identifying the requirements. So the first step that is available is identifying the processes. So that requires the organization to identify the processes that is needed for the quality management system. So what are the various processes that is required for the quality management system? That is 4.1a, that is whenever I want to install a quality management system, so the first step is identifying the processes that is used to identify or that is used for the quality management system and their application throughout the organization. So whatever their application that is applicable, that is used throughout the organization. Now, what does this mean? What does this mean means what is the scenario that is used for this one? So processes produce the results of the added value. So whatever the added value that is available that produce the result of the added value, then processes are not procedures. So processes are not the procedure that is used, but they are the use that is needed that serves the organization objective. So whatever the organization objective that will be required, that is required for the organization objective. And processes needed for the organization or management system might be all the processes that is needed to achieve the organization's objective. So whatever the objective that is required, so that is the main identifying the processes that is required for the quality management system. And these are the interested party, that is the end-to-end process. So that is the first part, and this is the end part. So that means there is a client, there is a server, and there are different processes that is used for the quality management system. That is chained down, that means process A, process B, and the process C. Now, why it is necessary to identify the processes? Because this requirement responds to the process approach principle. So there is a process approach principle that is applicable for the organization, that is used for the specialist, that is known as the process approach principle. So the management system consists of a series of interconnected processes. So whatever the interconnected processes that is known as the management system. So management system consists of a series of the interconnected processes, and therefore these processes need to be identified, because what is a system? That is an interconnection of various processes. So it's very we can say the effective, it's very mandatory to identify whether these processes need to be identified or not. Now, how it is implemented? As the standards is not specified to the type of the processes, we assume that all the processes and would require the business process and the work process. That means all the processes will be divided into two categories. One is the business process, one is the work process. And the difference is important for a full appreciation of the requirement. So whatever the difference that is required, that is important for a full appreciation of the requirement that is applicable for the quality management system. Now, there are two approaches in this one. So first is there is a top-down approach. Now next is the bottom-up approach for implementing the processes. When I say there is a top-down approach, that means first of all we come from the top, then move downward, downward, downward. That is known as a top-down approach. So from the organization mission statement, determine the factors upon which accomplishment of the mission depends. It depends on the mission, it depends on the target that is used. There are crucial factors that is required, that is a critical success factor, that is CSF, that is used to identifying the various processes that is used to deliver these capabilities. That is covered, that is critical success factors are covered in the top-down approach. And CFS or CSF indicate the capabilities that is needed and consequently identifying the processes that is required to deliver these capabilities. And in order to fulfill the mission, an organization might need a design capability, a production capability, and a distribution capability. And this results in a need for the design process. The top-down approach that is required. So we're starting from the top and moves to the back downward, downward, downward. Now, that means decomposing the layers further by analyzing each sub-process. As I said, that there is a main process that is further divided into sub-processes. So in the top-down approach, moving from the top and going to the downwards, there are sub-processes, downwards, sub-processes, downwards, sub-processes. That is used for identifying the work processes and eventually the task that is performed by the specific individual. So whatever the task that is acquired, that is used for the work processes. This is as deep in the hierarchy that you should need to go. That means whatever the we can say the hierarchy that is required, whatever the scenario that is required, we can go inside. That is a top-down approach. So whenever we are using the top-down approach, that means moving downward. Now, next approach that is applicable is the bottom-up approach. In this, we start from the bottom and move upward. That is known as the bottom-up approach. That means taking first of all the sub-processes, then move to the main process. So first of all, there is a sub-process, and after the sub-process moves to the main process. That is the main process. That is a part of the, or that is a one of the main process. That is a not the sub-process but the main. So take any group of tasks within a function and establish the processes to which they contribute, keeping the focus on the external party. So keeping of the focus on the external party, that is known as the bottom-up approach. So take any group of the tasks within a function and establish the process to which they contribute, keeping the focus on the external party that is used. That is known as the bottom-up approach. It is realized there is a gap in the chain. So there is a gap in the sub-processes, processes, and the multiple processes. Extend that chain until you reach the task. So extend means increase that chain until you reach the task. So that is the bottom-up approach. That is moving from the downwards to the main part. That is to the main process. And this approach can commence at the functional level and grows in outward until all groups are represented in the chain. Until all groups are representing in the chain, so that grows outward until all groups are represented in the chain. And in taking this approach, you may feel or find some tasks that do not link with any other task or an external party that should be marked for the action. So whatever the action, whatever the external party that is doing, so that is used for the marking the concept, that is used for marking. And the task may not be to the any one external party, but that can be used for the multiple parties. And whatever the processes that is handled in this bottom approach that is used for them, whatever the processes, for example, the marketing process that converts the customer need into the interest in the organization product and the services. So whatever the organization product, whatever the services that is available, that is the interest to the organization product and the services. And this process might also known as understanding the customer needs. So one of the process that is available in the bottom approach is understanding the customer needs. The next is the business management process that converts the need of the interested parties into the policies and objectives. So whatever the policies, whatever the objective that is undertaken for their fulfillment of the business processes that is used for their fulfillment, providing the system for meeting them and ensure the continued dissatisfaction, the continued satisfaction of all the interested parties. So whatever the interested party that is satisfied within the we can say the within the task, within the organization. And that is known as a mission management. So one is the understanding the customer need, then there is a mission management, then there is a resource management, that is the asset management, then order to cash. So these are the various processes. That is the one example of the bottom approach, that is moving from the downwards to the upward and upward. Order fulfillment is obviously a major concern in any organization because it creates a wealth. It may include the sub-processes of the sales, design, production, and the distribution. And identifying processes means more than just naming them. So that is more than just naming them, that is used for the production, that is used for the identifying the processes. Now, what is a name? That is a label that triggers the perceptions, that triggers the perception, and some of which may differ from what we intended. So whatever we intend, that is used for differing the identifying the processes, that is a label that triggers a perception, that is used for the intentation. However, naming is important in order to avoid the confusion between the processes and the function. That is, the naming is differ important to avoid the confusion between the what are the various processes, what are the various objectives. Now, these are the various product orientation. This is a service orientation that is used for the services. And in every organization, there are a set of activities that is required, but each set or sequence is not necessarily a process. There are multiple activities, but there is no hard and fast rule that is a process. Now, this is outside the organization. Inside the organization, from the outside, there are the various customer inquiries, customer requirements. Customer supplied a product, vendor supplied product and services. Then there is a labor market. What is the impact on the stakeholder? How the employee will be satisfied? That is the employee satisfaction. Then there is a return on the investment. That is what is the return, or what is the, we can say, the profit that is acquired, or that is we can get after investing something. That is the return on the investment. Then supplier loyalty, that is supplier's loyalty. Then there is environmental responsibility. That means how we are able to implement, or how we are responsible for the environment. This is the context diagram, and these are the various models that is used for this one. That is the IDEF0, that is used or that is used to produce the function model. That is IDEF0. Then IDEF1, that is the next, that is one, that is the information model. So one is a function model, that is representation of various function. Then information model, that is what is the structure and the semantic of the information, or how the information will flow, how the data will flow. That is the information model. Then next is the dynamic model, that represent the time varying behavior characteristics. That is IDEF2. Then IDEF3, that is used to produce a process model. So one is a function model, then there is an information model, then there is a dynamic model, then there is a process model. So these are the four models that is available, that is used to produce a these are the four models that is available in the functional dependency functional relationship. That is IDEF0, that is used to produce a function model, IDEF1 information model, dynamic model, process models. These are the four models that is available over here. Now next is sequencing and interaction of the processes. That is how we can do the sequence and interaction of the processes. So first of all, we are identifying the processes. Then the next step is what is the main sequence and how we can interact with the various processes. Before going to start this one, my question is to Larry. Are you able to hear me? Larry, where were you in the last week? Full week you were absent in the class. Can you tell me where were you in the last week? Hello, are you able to hear me, Larry? Hello? Yeah, where were you, Larry, in the last week? Hello? Okay, you try to log in, but what is the error? Why it is not showing, or why it is not logging up? Your bandwidth is low? Or have you tried, or have you mailed to me that I am not able to log in? No, you only skip the class. That is the main fact. So you tell me with the help of the email that class is not working, GoToMeeting is not working, then I got the solution. How do I know that the GoToMeeting is not working for the students? How do I know? I'm a teacher, I'm a faculty. I'm not able to access that from the teacher or from the student point of view. Your last week full miss. Now again, now you are regular, or okay. Sorry. But from otherwise, next time onwards, if there is any problem, just mail to me so that I get the solution for you. All right, Larry? Okay. So I'm just coming within 2 minutes, Larry. So next is sequence and the iteration of the processes, that is the interaction of how we can interact, or what is the sequence processes, that is the sequence and the interaction interaction of the process, that is 4.1b. So first of all, we have to identify the processes. Then the next step is what is the main sequence, and how we can interact with the various processes. So the standard requires the organization to determine the sequence and the interaction of the identifying processes. So whatever the sequence, whatever the identifying processes that is required by the sequence, that is required by the standard, that requires the organization to determine the sequence and the interaction of the identifying processes. That means to identify what is the main sequence and the interaction of the process that is required, that is used to determine the sequence and the interaction of the identifying processes. Now, what does this mean? So sequence refers to the order in which the processes are connected to achieve a given output. That means what are the various modes? That means sequence is the order. That means the order means the sequence in which the processes are connected to achieve a given output. So how we can achieve the output by taking the sequence, that is the what are the various steps, what are the various guidelines, what are the various order that is followed, that is used for the processes that is connected to a given output or achieve a given output. Now, interaction refers to the relationship between the processes and their dependencies. So, sequence means the order, and interaction means how the different processes interconnect with each other, how they depend with each other, how they interact with each other. The sources of the input and the destination of the output. That means how the different processes are interact with each other. That is to say taking the input and taking the output. And the system model illustrates the system, or this is the figure 2.14 that illustrates the sequence and the interaction of business processes. Now, where is the figure number? This one. And this is figure 2.14. That is not available in this one. Okay. Now, why it is necessary? Because this requirement responds to the system approach principle. Now, why there is a mandatory to give the sequence and interaction among the various processes that respond to the system approach principle. So there is system approach principle that is taken out when we use the system requirements. So the objectives are achieved through the processes. So whatever the objective that is getting out, that are achieved through the processes, each delivering an output. That means objectives are achieved, so we can get the objectives through the processes, each delivering an output that serves an input to other processes. That means whatever the objective that we are taken out, that is achieved through the processes. So objectives are taken out through the objectives or through the processes, and each delivers some output. So whatever the objective, whatever the target that is followed on, that is used to achieve, or that is used to deliver an output that serves an input to other processes along a chain that ultimately results in the objective. So whatever the result, whatever the objective that is carrying out, that is used for getting the results. Some will work in parallel, other in a direct line, but all feeding a result that are needed to accomplish the objective. That means whatever the objective, that means whatever the interaction that is required for the approach, that is required for the objective. Now, how is this implemented? How we can maintain the sequence, how the interaction will be maintained among the processes. So a practical way to show the sequence of processes is to produce a series of flow. That means whatever the series of flow, or how we can make the flow chart that is implemented with the sequence. So whenever I want to whenever I want to show the sequence that is implemented, or that is showing, or that is designed by the flow chart. So there is a flow chart that is available to show the sequence of the processes. However, charting every activity can make the chart. That means whenever we make the chart, that is used to make the chart so that the sequence will be maintained, the flow will be maintained, that is the flow chart. That appears very complex, but by layering the charts in a hierarchy, the complexity is reduced. So whenever we remember, when we talk about the flow chart, there is a starting point, there is a decision, there is a processes. Everything is possible, or everything is available, or everything is shown with the help of the flow chart. So flowchart is very essential for the usability, or we can say the user friendliness, because everything is clear with the help of the diagrams, right? The complexity is reduced into more digestible proportions. And many processes will only work, or will only require the input from other processes to start, but also require other input or condition for the task to be executed. Whatever the task, whatever the processes that is executed, that is implementing using the flowchart. And there is a resource management that is also used to deliver the trained people. There is a resource management process that is available, and there is a calibrated equipment and the facilities that is required in which the environment. So sequence is done, interaction is done, identifying is done. Now next for the next part, that is the criteria and the method for the effective operation and the control. That is, what are the various effective methods, what are the various criteria for the effective operation and the control. The standard requires the organization to determine the criteria. That means, what is the main criteria to determine, or what is the main target, or what is the main method to determine the criteria. So the standard requires the organization to determine the criteria and method that is required to ensure the effectiveness. So that is required to ensure the effective operation and the control of the identifying processes. So whatever the identifying processes, or what we can say, the how we can achieve the effective target, that is to determine the criteria and the effectiveness and the control of the identifying process. Now, what does this mean? That means, what is the meaning of the criteria? That ensures the effective operation. So the criteria ensures the effective operation are the standards, that is operating condition. So what are the various operating conditions that is applicable? That is, what are the various conditions that is applicable for the standard operating system? Conditions, requirement, or the success criteria that need to be met for the process to fulfill the objective. That means how we are getting the objectives, how we are getting the criteria to met for the process to fulfill the objectives. That is the criteria, means the method or the process or the way how we can do the operation. So criteria and the method for the effective operation. So the method that ensure the effective operations are those regular and the systematic actions that deliver the required results. So whatever the required result that is applicable, that is used for the effective operation, that are regular and systematic actions that deliver the required result. So whatever the required result that is applicable, that is used for the regular and the systematic actions. In some cases, the results are dependent upon the method. So in some cases, the results are dependent upon the method that is used, and in other cases, any method might achieve the desired result. So whatever the result, whatever the criteria that is applicable, that is showing the method. So use of the word method is interesting. So whenever we show the word method that is interesting, that is, we can say it is of the interesting part, it is of the mandatory part, that is used for the interest. For example, information may be conveyed to the staff in many ways. One such method might be electronic display. So whenever I want to display any method, whatever I want to show any information to the staff, that may be displayed by using the electronic display on call waiting, call completing, and the call response. And the method of display is not a procedure, although there is there may be an automatic procedure for collecting and processing the data. That means whenever we collect the data, whenever we get the data that is required for the automated, or that is required for the procedure that is used for collecting and processing the data. Now, why it is necessary? That gives to the process approach principle. So why it is necessary to get the method for the effective communication, for the effective criteria that responds to the process approach model. So there is a process approach model that is applicable, there is a process approach principle, so that is operating effectively, that requires or that delivers the required output of the required quality. So what is the process that is operating effectively, that delivers the required output of the required quality on time and economically? That means whenever we get the output, whenever we get the input that is required for the required output of the required quality, that is on time and economically, that is at the cheapest rates. Now, how it is effective or how it is implemented, that we can set the criteria and the method for the various processes. So in order to determine the criteria for the effective operation, so in order to find out which is the correct method for the effective operation and control, you need to identify the factor that affects the success. So first of all, identifying the factors. What are the various factors that affects the success. That means what are the various factors that is used or that affect the success. Just ask yourself the question: what are the factors that affect our ability to achieve the required objective? That means what are the various factors that is applicable, or what are the various factors that affect our mobility to achieve the required objectives? That is one of the question. In a metal matching process, material type and condition, skill, depth of cut, feed and speed affect the success. So whatever the criteria, whatever the method that is applicable, that is used for the effective management. And in the design process, input requirement adequacy, designer competency, resource availability, and data access also affects whatever the data that affects the success that is required for the designer competency, that is required for the various implementation. And there are various standards also that is applicable for this one. So there are starting conditions, running condition, and shutdown condition for each and every process. So there are multiple conditions by which it is implemented. That may be a starting condition, that may be a running condition, that may be a shutdown condition for each process that need to be specified. And determining the methods can mean determine the series of actions. So whenever I say that determine the method, that means determine the series of actions to deliver the results, or simply identifying a means to do something. That means identifying the need or identifying a means to do something. That is how we can do the target, that is determining the series of actions to deliver the results. That means how we can deliver the results, or simply identifying the means of the processes, or what are the various processes that is required to implement them, or what are the various controls by which we can implement the target. Now, for example, there are various methods of the control. What are the various methods? That is used, that is supervisors control the performances. So in way of control, what's the target? That is supervisors control the performance of their work group. So it's a role of the supervisor to manage or control the performance of their work group by being on the firing line to correct the error. So whatever the error that is applicable, so they need to perform, or they need to get the results, it's a duty of the supervisor to maintain the performance of their work group. Then next method of control is automatic machines control their output by inbuilt regulation. So automatic machine also control their output. So there is automatic machine also that controls their output. Whenever there is a huge output, whenever the target is fulfilled, that provides the basic inbuilt regulation that is applicable. Then manual machines control their output by people sensing performance. That means the performance is judged by the manual machines, and managers control their performances by using the information. So how the managers control their processes or control their performances? By using the information. So they get the information for the effective management, they get the information for the various management. And the method is described by the words following by as in the above list. Now, next part is documenting a quality management system. So we have discussed about identifying the processes or how to establish the quality management system, then documenting. That means providing the documentation, providing the paperwork for the quality management system. The standards requires the organization to document a quality management system in accordance with the requirement of the ISO 9001 standard. So there is a ISO 9001 standard that is also applicable, or that is used in accordance with the quality management system, or we can say that the quality management system is used in accordance with the requirements of the ISO 9001 standard. Now, what is the meaning of the documentation? A document means information and its supporting medium. That means what is a document? That contains the information and the supporting medium, that is known as the documentation. A document. A page of printed information, a CD-ROM, or a computer file is a document. So the document may be any form. That may be a printed information, that may be a CD-ROM, that may be a computer file, that implies a recorded information. That means whatever the information that may be used any source. That may be a CD-ROM, that may be a computer file, anything. But the main concern is that there is a information, there is a document. And as a management system is a means to achieve the organization objective, and the system is a set of interconnected. What is the main role of the management system? That is to achieve the organization objective, and the system is a set of the interconnected processes. It follows that what is the rule or what are the various documentation that is used. But it's mandatory for you to use the documentation part that continues the system. So it's mandatory to use the interconnected or interrelated processes that is carrying on in the processes. Now, why it is necessary or why is this necessary? That gives to the system approach principle. So whenever we are documenting something, whenever we are providing the paperwork or any recorded information, that is used for the system approach principle. And before ISO 9000 came along, organizations proposed without masses of the documentation, and many still go. So when the ISO came along or came, organization proposed without masses of the documentation. So organization proposed what are the various documentation parts and how it is used, and many still to do with the organization parts, and many still to do with the ISO 9000 standards. And those that have chosen not to pursue the ISO 9000 path often only generate and maintain the document they have useful purpose, that is used to for the document for the auditor, that is used for the legal requirements. And ISO 9000 contains a list of very valid reasons. So there is a contains or there is a set of the valid reasons that is required, why documents are necessary, and here is a list that is used in the previous edition of this handbook. Now this why it is necessary. So why ISO is necessary? So to communicate the requirements, or why the documents are necessary in the ISO. This is the main part. So why it is necessary? So to first part is to communicate requirements. So if I want to communicate the requirement to someone else, so that is done by the ISO. So to communicate the requirement, intentions, instructions, methods, and the result effectively. So if I want to communicate something to someone, that it may be a requirement, that may be an intention, that may be an instruction, that may be a method, that may be a result. So we can easily provide the document. We can easily get the document for the documentation part. Then to convert the solved problems into the recorded knowledge so as to avoid having to solve them repetitively. That means to convert the solved problem into the recorded knowledge. Then to provide the freedom for the management and staff to maximize their contribution to the process. That means whenever there is a documentation part, that also helps for the freedom for the management, also helps to the staff to maximize their contribution. Now, how it is implemented? By using the information and the support medium that is implemented. We can implement by using the various choices. We can also convey using the quality policy and the objective, quality manual, documented procedure. So whatever the mode that we are using for the system documentation, that may be in the form of the quality policy and the objective, that may be in the form of the quality manual, documented procedure, records, anything that is used for the we can say for the documentation of the quality management systems. These are the various manuals that is used. Now the next part is document analysis. So these are the various ISO. Yes, it is an international standard organization, Larry. That is a, we can say if I go to the organization, we can say that it is a ISO certified organization. That means it has every documents, every policies, every procedure that is related to the approach, that is related to the document. And there are various processes or there are various approaches that is applicable in the ISO that needs a documentation. I'm going to take after the break. So let's take a break for 10 minutes, then move to this one. Only 10 minutes break. Okay. So let's take a break. So come back from the break. Now let's start the session again. So these are the four approaches that is used for the documentation, that is very necessary for the documentation part. So first is the document analysis, then applying the control model, then applying the Kipling law, then applying the process approach. So these are the four approaches that is used for to reveal the documentation necessary. Now, what are the four approaches? So first is the documentation analysis. That is, what is the documentation analysis? How we can implement the analysis, or how we can implement the data that is the analysis of the documentation, then applying the control model. So first of all, let's see what are the various documentation analysis part. So there are three approaches you can take to identify the documentation required. So what are the three approaches? So first of all, whenever you want to analyze the documentation, so first is conduct a search of the relevant standard for references to documentation. That is, what are the various standards that is used for the documentation, or what are the various methods that is used for the references to the documentation part. So that is conduct a search of the relevant standard for the references to the documentation, then respond to the requirement of the standards with operational policies, then identifying what documents would be required, would be needed to implement these policies. That is, what are the various documents that is required for the standards, that is respond to the requirements of the standards. So first of all, conduct a search, then next is respond to the requirements of the standards with operational policies. So whatever the operational policies that is used, then identifying where documents would be needed to implement these policies. That is, what are the various documents that is required for the organization policies that is required for the documentation part. So first of all, conduct, then respond, then chart the processes and identifying where documents are needed to convey inputs and outputs. So what are the various documents by which we can convey the inputs and the outputs. And of these, the most effective approach that is applicable is to adopt the third optional or the third option that is used, then applying the we can say the two other options to identify any document that have been omitted. So whatever the documents that is omitted, that is the documentation analysis. Now next, so first part is document analysis, the next part is applying the control model. So what is the control model? That is applying the control model. So control of anything follows a universal sequence of the task. So whatever an universal sequence of the task, that is applying the control model. That uses a requirement, then there is a plan, then there is a corrective action, then after the plan there is a do, there is a check, then after the check there is a confirms. If yes, then the product or the service is established or not. That means applying the control model for this one, that is how we are able to access, or how what are the various sequence of the steps, what are the various sequence of the task, that is illustrated by the generic control model. Hello, are you able to hear me? Hello. Yeah, my voice is audible to you, Mitty Benjamin and the Larry. Hello. 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 Okay, thanks. Well, there is some network problems. That's why I'm asking from you. So this is a requirement, then there is a plan, then there is a corrective action. So after the requirement, there is a plan out. After getting the requirement, there is a plan out, what to do, why to do, and when to do. That means the plan out, the content. Then after the plan, there is a corrective action, there is a remedial action that is also taken out, that is the corrective action and the remedial action. There is a do. After the plan, there is a do, then there is a check. If that confirms it is okay, then product or the services will be available. That is a generic control model. And by asking some questions derived from the model, we can reveal or we can reveal the essential document. So what are the various questions? That is, what do we have to do? That is, how will we make it happen? What did we do? That means these are the various questions that is answered carefully for getting the model. That is, what are the various questions? That is, what do we have to do? What is the main target we have to do? How will we make it happen? What did we do? How will we know it's right? How can we prove it's right? So these are the various questions that is revealing the document, that is revealing the methods. So we can reveal the essential document for the various methods. And what did we decide to do with the rejects? So what are the various rejects that is applicable for the rejects, and how we do know, how do we know that the rejects are fixed or was fixed? Whatever the reject that is fixed or not, so that the action will be taken. And there is a generic control model that can be applied at 4 levels. So there is a generic control model that is applied to the 4 models or 4 levels. Now, what are the various levels that is applied? So this model is applied to what models or what levels, or what we can say the levels. The first is the system level. So that is applied to the system level. So that is applied to the system level means that is applied to reveal the system requirements, system measurements, system changes. So whatever the system changes, whatever the system requirement that can be applied to the system changes, system requirement, measurement, and identifying the business requirements, business plans, business performances. So whatever the performance, whatever the business objective that can be carried out, that will be taken out to review and change in the business strategy that is used for the business strategy. So there is a change in the business strategy and the structure that is available at the system level. So the first, the generic control model is available at the first of all there is a system level, then it is available at the business process level. So it is applicable at the business process level, that is we can apply from the business process model that we can implement with the business control models. Then at the task level, that is available at the task level, so as to reveal the task requirements. So what is the task requirements, how it is applicable, or what are the various targets by which we can task requirements at the task level. So first is the system level, then there is a process business process level, then there is a task level, then there is the activity level. So how the activities will be performed, so as to reveal the activity, so as to reveal the activity requirements, activity measurements, and the activity changes. That is the activity level. This can be applied, or the control system, generic control system can be applied at the 4 levels. What are the 4 levels? That is the system level, then there is a process model or the business process level, then there is a task level, then there is the activity level. So these are the 4 levels by which we can apply the generic control model. Now, and this is done with the document analysis, then applying the control model. Now, how to apply the Kipling law? So in this, how to apply the Kipling law, there is a need to discover the Kipling law, that is not just the words, but also what we can obtain by using them, that is the Kipling law. Example, auditors use these words to discover the information that is known as the Kipling law, that is used to know the information that is required for the user's documentation that will need to perform their jobs as effectively as possible. That is, whenever we use a Kipling's law, that is used for the developers to identifying the various information, identifying various management tasks, various documentation that is used to perform their jobs as effectively as possible. And for each entry and exit, apply the Kipling's law and establish what does what, when, where, why, and how much, so that you answer the questions in table number 4.1. So these are the various Kipling's law questions that is available. What are the inputs? From the input point of view, where do they input or they come from? From where the input will come from? Who supplies them? That is, who supplies the Kipling's law? Then how are they supplied? That is how the input will be supplied to the management part, to the organization part, and why are they needed? So why are they needed? What is the requirement of the model? Why are they needed? Then in the resources part, what resources are required? That is, what are the various resources that is required, and where do they came from? Where do they came from, the resources? Who supplies them? That is, who supplies the model? That is, who supplies them, and how are they supplied? That is, how are they supplied with the model? Then when are they supplied? That is, first of all, there is the resources, so how they are supplied. Then when are they supplied? Then why are they needed? What are the resources? Why are they needed? What is the main aim for the needed? Then there is the process. Then there is the constraints, that is a constraint. Then there is the output. So whatever the output, whatever the constraint that is applicable for the outputs. And who uses the model, where do they go, what are the various targets that is applicable for the achievable, and who receives them, that is, who receives them for the applicable. And the process model approach method that is discussed, that is used to answer the questions, that is, what are the various questions that is answered by this one, what are you trying to do? So this is the first question, that is, what are you trying to do? That is a process approach method. Then how do you know make it happen? That is, what is the main procedure to make it happen? Then how do you know it's right? That is, how do you know if this is the correct option, or why you are using the correct option, or what is the main method for using the correct option? Then how do you know it is the best way to do it? So first of all, what are you trying to do? That means what is your main aim for the getting the instructions? What is your main aim for getting the data? And how do you make it happen? So how it is possible to make it happen, or what are the various criteria by which it is going to make it happen? That is what is the main crux that is used to make it happen. Then how do you know it's correct? That is, how do you know it's correct or not? And how do you know it is better one or it is right or not? Then how do you know it is the best way to doing it right? And how do you know it is the right thing to do? So what are the various methods that is applicable for this one, that is used for this one, that is used for the different criteria, that is used for the different methods? Hello, 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 hello. Yeah, are you able to hear me, Larry? Hello, 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 hello. Hello, are you able to hear me? Hello.